Ancient armies and poor farmers ate this one bean for strength, but now we skip it for expensive meat and powders. Did food companies erase its story? Is there a reason nobody in the US or Canada talks about it? Or did something big change without anyone noticing? Wait until you hear what really happened to this lost protein. Why did one cheap bean give big protein while prices exploded? In 2022, the price of food in the US went up almost 10% in just 1 year. That is the biggest jump since the late 1970s. When you look at eggs or meat, the numbers are even rougher. Beef prices in some states rose over 40% between 2019 and 2025, and eggs climbed 80% in the same time. Every grocery run now feels like a wallet test. People flinch just seeing the price of a dozen eggs or a tray of chicken. Now think about this. A single cup of cooked lupini beans can give you about 26 grams of protein. If you see that on the back of a package, you might stop and wonder, why pay so much for meat or eggs if a bean can do the same job? A cup of cooked lupini can hit the mid-20s in protein while staying surprisingly light on calories. That is almost as much protein as a big chicken breast, but it fits in a small bowl. This little bean has been a secret weapon for ages. Lupini beans grew wild around the Mediterranean. In ancient Egypt, Greece, and Rome, people ate them as cheap snacks. Soldiers and workers grabbed a handful because it filled them up and kept them strong. No fancy packaging, no shaker bottle, just fuel for real life. But here is the twist. Even now, most lupini beans go to feed animals, not people. Cows and chickens get the good stuff, while humans reach for expensive protein powders and meats. It makes you wonder, what happened to this everyday superfood? And why does it cost more now, even when the bean itself is cheap? There is a strange story hiding between the store shelf and your plate, how a cheap, powerful bean ended up almost invisible in your kitchen. That story gets even weirder when you see what changed along the way. What happened that turned this home bean into a rich person food? For hundreds of years, in places like Italy and Spain, people bought lupini beans from street vendors. They were salty, cheap, and came in a paper cone for just a few coins. No one called them premium or superfood. They were just a quick bite as you walked around. Farmers loved lupin because it grew on rough land, fed animals, and even made the soil better. It did 3 jobs at once: food, feed, and fertilizer. But something inside the bean made things tricky. Old types of lupin were bitter and had chemicals called alkaloids that tasted bad and could make you sick if you skipped the soaking. So, cooks soaked the beans for days, boiled them, and soaked them again. It took real time, water, and attention, something most people are short on today. Later, plant breeders created sweet lupin, a version with less bitterness, so it needed less work to make it safe and tasty. That helped factories use lupin in new ways, turning it into flour, bread, plant milk, and meat substitutes. But even with the beans still cheap, the products made from it got expensive. Branding and packaging made it look special, and suddenly, superfood labels appeared. When that happened, prices shot up, and the bean turned into something only certain shoppers felt comfortable buying. An Australian article even called lupin a comeback superfood. When that label sticks, regular people sometimes get priced out. Once store shelves started carrying only the expensive versions, the old, cheap snack faded from sight. So, while the bean kept its old jobs, the world around it changed. One word on a bag, superfood, turned it from a snack for everyone into something for just a few. That shift happened right under our noses, and it keeps shrinking your choices every time you shop. How did we stop eating this bean and start buying pricey tubs? Look at your kitchen shelf. Do you see a pot of soaked beans or a tall plastic tub with a scoop? That change didn't just happen. After World War II, wealthy countries pushed hard for more meat, milk, and eggs. Farms sent most of their grain to feed animals, not people. Meat became a sign of making it in life, while beans got pushed to the side. time also pushed this change. Dried beans, especially lupini, can need days of soaking and long cooking, especially the bitter ones. Busy lives, small kitchens, and work schedules made slow cooking feel impossible. Speed became everything, even before you reached the store. So, easy protein took over. By the late 1900s, whey protein, a byproduct of cheesemaking, got turned into powder. Gym culture grew, and shakes felt fast and cool. Plastic tubs with huge numbers printed on the front looked like a shortcut. A scoop took seconds. Beans took hours. By 2020, only about 4% of all lupin grown was eaten by people. The rest fed animals. If stores don't see demand, they don't bother stocking dry beans or jars. Supply stayed tiny, and prices stayed high for the stuff aimed at humans. A food science paper called lupin underutilized and neglected. When a food gets labeled as too much work or not popular, companies turn it into niche snacks or premium powders instead of making it a kitchen staple. The result? Fewer people see it as normal food, and even fewer get the real savings. In some places, like Mediterranean markets, you can still find salty lupini as street food. But outside those traditions, most people link protein to powders and brands, not beans. Culture, not the bean, changed your habits. Your shelf changed, but your body still wants what the old beans gave. Why does your body still need this bean while shops push powders? Muscles do not care what the package looks like. They want building blocks, not labels. Whether you eat a scoop or a stew, your body uses the amino acids inside to repair, build, and run itself. Here is the easy math. 1 cup of cooked lupini beans packs 26 grams of protein, 16 grams carbs, 5 grams fat, plus lots of fiber. All of that for under 200 calories. Under 200 calories and that much protein? Feels like a cheat code. Food experts say beans were the protein backbone of the classic Mediterranean diet. They kept poor families full for centuries. Lupin stands out for high protein and minerals like magnesium, potassium, and zinc. Those minerals matter for steady energy and strong health. Compare lupin to other beans. Black beans, kidney beans, and chickpeas give about 11 to 18 grams of protein per cup. Lupin sits almost as high as soybeans, about 29 to 31 grams per cup, but it stayed quiet, even while other muscle foods got popular. Nutrition pros are clear. Soybeans are among the best sources of plant protein. Lupin is right there on the chart with soy, offering a solid amino acid mix. Your body uses it the same way, even if stores treat it as a weird, rare option. Protein powders do help when you are in a rush, but they often have extra sugar, fake flavors, or higher prices. Beans come with fiber, which helps steady your blood sugar and is good for your heart and gut. Most powders can't do that. Lupin has another bonus. It is gluten-free. People who avoid wheat can still use lupin flour to make bread or pancakes. It is a sneaky way to add more protein without animal foods. Gluten-free makes it work for more people. So while stores keep changing the money side, your body's needs stay the same. That tug of war sets up the real problem. Who decides what you pay and what you eat? Get ready, because this is where the money game gets rough. What went wrong with money if grandma's bean was almost free? Years ago, families kept costs down with big pots of beans. In many places, lupini beans did the job because they grew on tough land and worked as animal feed or soil boosters. Seeds stayed cheap. People used time and effort, not cash, to make food stretch. But now, your protein bill pays for a lot more than just beans. Fertilizer, fuel, rent, debt, and plastic all get added in. The OECD and FAO show that fertilizer and energy prices jumped sharply in the last few years. That bump rolled right into your grocery bill. In 2022, the U.S. Food Price Index rose almost 10%. The biggest hits were in meat, dairy, eggs, and vegetable oil. High energy costs hit food through a chain you cannot see. One Canadian report says grocery prices are up over 27% since 2019. Beef rose more than 50%. Even plant-based protein is up about 25%. Protein lands right in the middle of every cost spike: feed, fuel, war, and climate problems. Lupin for human food stayed in a tiny market. Small supply means higher prices per bag. Big factories don't bother with foods that only a few people buy. When something stays niche, every step costs more, and savings disappear. Then comes the packaging trap. Plain dry beans are cheap per gram of protein, but look boring. A marinated lupin super snack in a tiny package is fun, travels farther, and costs way more. The price is in the product, not the bean. A plant protein report puts it straight. Alternative proteins get premium pricing compared to regular meat. That stings when you see a basic bean in a fancy bar with a loud label. It's a trap that keeps protein expensive, even when the base food is not. So, while the bean itself never really changed, every layer added on top made it pricier and less normal in your mind. What you see on shelves and what you pay has more to do with those layers than the actual crop. But this story isn't just about the past. Look ahead. The real pressure is coming fast. How big is the problem? If this bean is near us and still ignored, 10 years can flip everything. More people are going to gyms, more are worried about health, and more are stressed about climate all at once. The numbers say animal foods will grow by about 6% in the next decade, and the total animal output by 17%. At the same time, heat, drought, and expensive farms make meat and dairy harder to produce. That is why everyone talks about alternative protein. The Good Food Institute says plant-based meat and dairy use less resources, but prices are still high, and nutrition stories get confusing. Shoppers feel stuck, trapped between saving money and staying healthy. That is where lupin gets weird. It fixes nitrogen in the soil, grows in rough places, gives high protein, and has a food history stretching back to ancient Egypt and the Inca world. Still, it hides behind other foods and habits. Strong, invisible bean hiding in plain sight. Research shows a simple soak and roast makes lupin flour safer and tastier. Farmers in Ethiopia use these tricks to make local lupin better for their families. It sounds tiny, but it opens the door for more people to eat it safely. So, lupin sits in 3 places: as street snacks in some cities, as animal feed in the fields, and as future protein in labs and factories. That split tells you what's wrong. Protein is there, but access is messy and uneven. 3 versions of the same bean with totally different outcomes. If another price shock hits eggs or beef, lots of people will feel stuck again, even though beans like lentils, soy, lupin, and black beans are sitting right there, ready to help. The big move is not new tech or new products. It's learning old names before the next shock comes. One farmer said, "It feels like we grow protein for cows first and people second." That says everything about the weird food system right now, and what might change if more people start asking for these beans by name. Because when the next wave hits, knowing the bean names could be your best move. If this cheap bean story left you guessing, share the wildest food surprise you've seen lately. And if you want the next hidden truth about what's really on your table, just tap the next video now. See you there.